Hello, and hopefully welcome back. This video is part 4 in my 4-part series. In the first 3 videos, we talked about some of my favorite underrated Disney movies, The Emperor's New Groove, Atlantis and Treasure Planet. In this video, I'm going to be covering some concepts that pertain to all of these movies, and also just kind of the world of 2D animation in general, and what happened to it, where it might be going, things that affected it, and just some overall subjects that have to do with that. First thing I want to talk about is why are these movies underrated and why aren't they more well known? You might have realized this or you might not have, but these 3 movies all came out in a very short period of time. Emperor's New Groove came out in 2000, Atlantis came out in 2001, Treasure Planet came out in 2002. And this was a very interesting time for Disney, and actually just the world of 2D animation in general. 3D animation had just become a big thing. Toy Story came out in 1995, and since then they had already gotten A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, and Monsters, Inc. 3D animation was really starting to take off, and so studios were having less and less interest in producing 2D animated films because they didn't think it was the way of the future. They didn't think it was the way the studios should be going because they were looking around and thinking, oh, this is the direction we need to be going. 2D animated movies are a thing of the past. And a couple of years ago at a Comic-Con, I was actually able to speak to a gentleman who was a supervising animator at Disney and worked on all 3 of these films. And I asked him about this specifically, about how these movies were being treated and why they seemed to be different from other movies coming out around this time at Disney. And his answer was very interesting and kind of sad about how Disney just really wasn't interested in these films anymore. And he said it was actually really discouraging because while making them, these artists and storytellers are putting their heart and souls into these films for years. And he said Disney just didn't really care, and they didn't really promote them, and they didn't really encourage them. They were focused elsewhere. And he said it was a really kind of discouraging thing. But they were happy with the movies that they produced. They loved them. They were passion projects. And so it was really hard for them to see Disney treat them so poorly. Because there is an argument to be made that Disney didn't want these movies to be successful, and they purposefully didn't promote them. Because if you have a movie that's successful, you kind of feel obligated then to continue that series or that style, and they didn't want to. Because these movies were actually pretty expensive. Mixing the 2D and the 3D was expensive, and they didn't think it was the way of the future, and so they kind of wanted these movies to fail so that they had a reason to focus on 3D animation. And that's such a shame. That's so sad and unfair. Because I think there's an argument to be made that this was kind of the peak of animation. You see it not only in these Disney films, but also in a lot of other 2D films coming out around this time. In this short window here, you also had movies like The Iron Giant, Spirit, Prince of Egypt, Road to El Dorado, and a bunch of others that are amazing examples of how you can put together 2D and 3D animation to create a stunning final product. But studios just weren't interested in it, and so they decided to go to the 3D route. Yeah? You want to say hi?
Hi, what's this guy's name?
This isn't a guy, this is a video.
Oh,
Here, Tony.
what?
What's this movie?
Treasure Planet.
Treasure Planet, that's right. He loves this movie.
Yeah, Mom,
Hmm?
do another movie.
What's this movie called?
Spirit.
Spirit. You like Spirit, huh?
Yep.
These are great movies. Sorry for that interruption. But here's the thing. Movies like that really appeal to boys. And I feel like that actually might be one of the reasons they didn't do well, because Disney is so focused on princesses and love stories and musicals. And these kind of were more boy-focused, you could say. And that's not really what Disney does. And maybe they don't even know how to promote that. That's something I think is a big shame. I actually feel like it's really good for little boys and adult men to have movies that they can watch and enjoy that aren't just singing princess movies. Even though those are great too. One of his other favorite movies is Moana. He loves Moana. You could say that movies for boys are being distributed by Pixar and Marvel and Star Wars and places like that, But those ones don't do 2D animation, and I think there's a lot of stories that can be told through 2D animation that aren't being told because Disney likes to focus on the princesses. Another reason you could maybe say that they didn't do so hot at the box office is because in this time period right here, there were 3 big franchises starting up. Star Wars Phantom Menace came out in 1999. Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring came out in 2001, as did Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So if you're a family who only goes and sees 1 or 2 movies a year, your money's probably going to be going to those ones instead of these movies that you've never heard of before, weren't even promoted, you don't know the stories they're based off of. You can see they had some hard competition. But anyway, I'm thinking that this genre hit at the wrong time. It's not what people were looking for at that time, but I think it is now. I actually really think that stories like this and animation like this could do really well today. And why I think that is because, first off, just the culture of what we're being given right now. We're living in a Marvel and a Star Wars world where action and adventure are much more common. And also just online, I've seen these movies getting a lot of attention recently and a lot of people asking and wanting for movies like this that have characters like this. I've even seen a lot of people talking about how they want a Disney movie that isn't about a princess, but is about an emotional, sensitive prince. Because Disney has tried these things in the past, you know, with Hercules and other male-led movies that didn't do so well. Disney probably thinks that audiences don't want that. And it's very possible that at that time, maybe we didn't. But I think we do now. And I really hope Disney is paying attention. Even though they probably aren't, because right now they're in their whole Marvel, Star Wars, reboot franchise mode. The last thing I want to talk about before wrapping up this video is a question and a topic that is coming up a lot nowadays because it's the trend, which is giving 2D movies a live-action remake. I have heard people shouting for remakes for all 3 of these movies, and here's my 2 cents on this. Emperor's New Groove. In my opinion, no. This story belongs in a 2D world where it can be as whimsical, far-fetched, slapstick, and ridiculous as it wants to be. There are no rules holding it down. It can be as crazy as it wants. And I don't really want to see a 3D CGI llama running around with people the whole time. I just don't think that would work. I don't think it's a good idea, and I don't think they should do it. Atlantis, however, I think could actually be okay as a live action. And here's why. I feel like the story isn't dependent on the 2D medium. You would just need to use special effects for some of the big epic environment shots that they do, some of the more surreal, fantastic elements with the crystal, and a bunch of the action and other things like that. But they are things that you see done in live action movies all the time. I actually think this one could lend itself well to live action. And as far as the story goes, I think it would as well. Because with live action movies, they always like to extend the runtime, right? They always like to add another half hour. But I think it could actually work here because, like I said, there was so much world building that needed to be done because they're introducing you to this whole new culture. And they made it an ensemble movie, so there's a whole lot of people to pay attention to. So I actually think if they did live action and they extended the runtime, that could be a good thing to give all of those things more time to breathe. So this is one that I actually think could be okay live action. But moving on to Treasure Planet, and again I am back to the opinion of no. This one is perfect in 2D, and I feel like this is one that does rely on 2D because the characters that they've designed are so bizarre and just extreme. I don't want to see them trying to do that with CGI animation. If they did, I feel like the only real way they could do it is going, you know, the Star Wars route, using prosthetics and animatronics. But then they kind of become limited. They're not as flexible and they can't do as extreme motions as 2D animated characters can do and normal humans. So I don't think that that would look better in live action. And the story doesn't really need to be expounded upon. I feel like they told all the story they need to. The characters were developed perfectly. There is nothing more they could add to it. So there's no point in remaking it. So I wanted to address those questions because that's something I see being brought up a lot, is everyone thinks that becoming live action is somehow an upgrade. I argue that is false. I actually think there's a lot of movies that could have an upgrade by going 2D. Like a good example is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. There's so much creativity they're able to do in a 2D space that they aren't able to do in live action, and the colors are so much more vibrant. I don't think going live action is ever an upgrade. But there's my opinion, anyway, on that subject. I have many more things I could say. As always, I could talk about this forever. But there are my thoughts on these 3 movies and how much I love them. And I want you to tell me in the comments down below, what is your favorite underrated Disney movie? Is it one of these 3, or is it one of the many other ones out there? Let me know down below. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.
I want to give you a hug.
You want to give me a hug?
No, I want to give him a hug.
You want to give the internet a hug?
Yeah, and don't fall.
Yeah, I won't drop you. Here.
Oh, I can't wait to.
There you go. You're a sweetie.
Yeah, I can have her with your sister.
Yeah, I'm making you a little sister right now. She's in my tummy. That's right.
Yeah, and he needs to grow a little bit.
Yeah, she still needs to grow a little bit. Yep.
Why look?
Ah, don't kick that, please.